is a time many of the adults that I've met I describe as a pinnacle of joy and excitement. A time to explore newfound freedoms. However, for me, it seemed like I was in a high school of a completely different and alternate reality of theirs. Growing up in the metropolis of Shanghai, amidst the competitive academic environment, I found myself thrust into a world where success was solely measured by grades, achievements, and popularity. Free time and YouTube from middle school seemed like no longer a norm among my peers. Like many of my peers, I felt the weight of expectation bearing down on me from a young age. Born in a small village in Malaysia called Kulai, my family instilled in me the values of hard work and perseverance, and I always acknowledged that I was fortunate enough to enjoy opportunities that very few in my family had enjoyed. We moved to Shanghai when my dad had to come here for his work, and I began my life in this great city. I had opportunities beyond what I could have imagined, but I also felt a heightened sense of pressure to excel. Of course, we all know the stereotypes about Asian kids and academic expectations. Oh, Asians are the nerds with the GPAs of 1.1. Yo, you see that nerd right there? He's definitely an Asian, I ain't gonna lie. Well, I have never really been the most academically gifted one, so the terrifying acronyms of SAT, GPA, APs, all haunted my dreams, as I'm sure they have did for many of my peers. And oh, let me tell y'all, when I saw my first SAT score back in August last year, I realized that I was definitely not built for what College Board had to offer, nor for this academic Olympics, the great game we all have to play to get into a top university. As the demands of academic life intensified, I often found myself in self-doubt of my ability and my worth. And I know that I'm not alone in this struggle. Across the globe, young people are grappling with the overwhelming pressures of social anxiety, academic success, social media, and the pursuit of popularity. This picture, it shows the effect of stress on students in the modern society. In a society where things like grades reign supreme, we often find ourselves stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and anxiety. What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't get into that college that I want to? What if I let my family down? So, how did I escape this state? Well, no, I did not. However, I was able to find motivation and strength to move forward through volunteering and learning gratitude of people. Amidst the chaos of the high school life, I stumbled upon a glimmer of hope, a beacon of light in this road and darkness of uncertainty. Volunteering. Volunteering became a sanctuary where I could find somewhat of purpose in myself and try to make a tiny, positive difference in the life of another. My first experience of volunteering was on a trip to the Kunming province in 8th grade. I accompanied my parents and their friends and our church group as we went and dealt with a community which was struggling with the debilitating effects of leprosy. These mostly elderly individuals had been ostracized by the community since young due to the completely unfounded fears that the disease was contagious. These people face not only the physical challenges that an awful disease like leprosy brings, but also the emotional toll of social isolation, the feeling of being abandoned by a community, exiled by family and friends. In this remote village, miles away from the comforts of the modern society, basic resources were scarce, and opportunities were virtually non-existent. Social interaction was limited to this little community. Witnessing the struggles, my volunteer group and I felt compelled to take action. We sought to alleviate their burdens by providing practical assistance, like from making shoes or to simply just providing companionship and support. However, despite our material support, we realized that the most important thing that we could have done for them was simply just to treat them like normal human beings. We also gave many items like electric heaters. This grandma named Grandma Young had told us that since leprosy had severely damaged her nervous system, she was unable to feel her hands, so she was scared to start a fire with wood whenever she would feel cold in the harsh weather. However, with our electric heaters, she and other elderly were finally able to feel warm for once ever since contracting the disease. Despite the tragedies, Grandma Young and all the other elderlies all always managed to give us a beaming smile. It touched deep in my heart, seeing all the positivity that the elderly radiate despite the tragic experiences. This transformative experience left an indelible mark on my consciousness and ignited a passion for service that would shape my path for years to come. As I transitioned into high school, I became more involved in volunteering efforts. I took an officer position of a club named Child Welfare Initiatives, which involved me in efforts to coordinate English classes for the rural and disadvantaged children across China, providing them with resources that they deserve. The most important thing that I received from my volunteering work were perspective and learning gratitude, as it allowed me to dive beneath the surface. I realized that while comparing my stress to those of others, my grades were not really as tyrannical or as threatening to who I am. A common norm that all of us high schoolers have were to take things for granted. However, volunteering has allowed me to deny this norm and learn gratitude. We are lucky enough to be exposed to a range of educational resources and economic comfort that are just a vast majority to many young people and the disadvantaged. Just like small me here, who was exposed to a multitude of resources but failed to recognize their convenience and how lucky I was to be able to browse the internet. I know it's cliche, but it is still important to acknowledge and be grateful for all the opportunities and resources that we have. Though we do have hardships, and of course it is normal to complain, we can still learn the continued strength within us, just like similar to that of Grandma Young. We take so many things for granted that we hinder the basic happiness and opportunities presented before us. I learned this from another elderly, a man named Uncle Zhang, who was an 80-year-old grandpa. Despite losing one foot and multiple fingers to the disease, he still was able to keep his optimism. He was able to utilize his passion for building and opportunities to build more inventions, such as this cart here, which he used to get around the village. So that made me think, what gives me so much of a right to be so pressed and sad over everything? I was lucky enough, as a small child in the town of Kulai, to be brought to this big city of Shanghai. If the elderly can also be utilizing their few opportunities, I can. And I should too utilize the strength that I can find within myself. That became my motivation to continue to move forward. I'm not trying to paint myself as some great philanthropist or some great extrovert like Mr. Beast. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. And don't get me wrong, I'm still definitely not that smart student, nor that academic goat. In fact, I think many of my friends here in the audience want me to quickly tell you what a Dallas donkey I am. Yeah, see, I see you laughing there already. However, volunteering has given me one really important insight as I don't believe the surface. Of course, it made me realize the profound privilege that I enjoyed in life. But more importantly, I realized how absolutely our lives are dictated by the random chance of what circumstances we are born into. Chance dictated that I was born into a middle-class family in Asia rather than a destitute family in a rural village where disease is rife and opportunities are non-existent. This humbling realization fueled my commitment to get over my teenage stress and fueled my motivation to seek out more efforts on ways that I can help others and provide tiny positive difference in their lives. More importantly, it fueled my motivation to find strength within myself whenever I felt like I was dug in the grave of pressures. Next, I want to talk about something that we take for granted, simply just people. As a volunteering experience has brought me to realization about many things, I realized how often I took people for granted. Being an extrovert has always meant being the loud, talkative one among my peers. The popular psychological concept that familiarity breeds contempt is what we believe was the main reason of why people take others for granted. It implies that the closer we are with each other, the less value and the less gratitude we will see within each other. If you ask any of my friends in the audience right now, I'm sure they'll tell you that sometimes I yak too much. However, I think that I'm lucky enough to have so many supportive friends that brings me through all my hardships. And the little happy moments that we experience during our hangouts are also another reason of how I was somewhat able to overcome my stress. My friends are also another reason of how I was able to overcome my insecurity of being obese. In middle school, quite frankly, I was overly obese for my age. However, the introduction of basketball from my friends allowed me to build a profound effect on my weight and allowed me to get into team sports, which I still am continuing currently in high school. My family as well. My family has always been supporting me along my way. They never really expected me to be the smartest one in school or to be the one to get into Ivies. So I think them not pressuring me is also another really important reason of how my stress is overcome, as I did not have to worry about their expectations of myself, which is really common among many Asian families. It's a part of human nature to be selfish and neglect some people. However, I look at it as a reminder that they are the reason of why I'm standing here today. Today, I stand before you guys not as a smart student or the most competent one, but rather, I stand before all of you as someone who has dared to challenge the status quo of academic pressure, and through volunteering learned about gratitude and found strength within myself. So, for those of you in the audience right now who are also currently experiencing the academic minefields and social quicksands of high school life, I recommend all of you to sometime take an initiative to experience the transformative power of volunteering. I think that this experience will unlock so much untapped potential within yourself. I think what you will find is that the person you will ultimately benefit is yourself. We'll realize how lucky we are with all the opportunities and happiness already presented before us, and that we can be just as satisfied as those elderly in the village with the electric heaters. And we realize how lucky we are that we have all these wonderful people around us that we can have to support us through all of our obstacles. It can provide and broaden your insight and find strength through pressures of academic success and social validation. And it can provide insight of everlasting relationships and how great your family really is. For in the work we do for others and the time we devote to something beyond our immediate concerns and worries, we may just be able to find the clarity and perspective needed to navigate through the uproarious waters of adolescence. We can find continued strength within ourselves, similar to that of Grandma Young and Grandpa John. We can emerge as more stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate individuals. Lastly, become that beacon of light in this road of darkness and uncertainty. Thank you for listening to my speech.